Hello YouTube world, my name is Nicholas Montez and you're watching my YouTube channel, Nicholas Montez. Welcome back to another YouTube channel for everybody. I'm so excited to have y'all back here together again. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about all 56 retro summer movies of 2022 that I saw, ranking them from the worst to the best, because today is my final day of summer of 2022, of summer break. Tomorrow I start high school, I start 9th grade, I start school again. So with that said, let's go get started with the list. Alright, so for me, this is a terrible film for me, as, you know, I was not the biggest fan of the original Alien vs. Predator film, so going to this movie, I did not expect much. So unfortunately, this movie did not do much for me, so it comes in last place. Alright, so this is the original cut of the Alien vs. Predator film, and personally for me, I just did not like this movie once again. I just don't like the crossover event between Alien vs. Predator. It sounds like a cool idea, but it's like, I haven't even watched the original film to understand it, and also, the action just looks really bad, and the whole movie's just bad overall, honestly. Now this is a movie that I feel like has some of the stuff that they used in the original House Party, but they didn't exactly do it as well. Like, they have this story where they basically do like a Ferris Bueller storyline, and I just don't really think that fits in this movie. They also just bring in a bunch of kids in here, and honestly, like, the whole movie just does not really fit. It tries to do something, and it just does not work. So for me, it felt like a mixture of Ferris Bueller, but with a mixture of Friday in it, and I just did not like it. So for me, it is coming at the bottom of this list. So for me, this is easily one of the worst House Party films that I have seen, at least for me. Personally, they try to do a story that seems like it works, but they juggle too much stuff, where they're trying to have Bud kid go to college, but then you have people complaining about babysitting kids, and none of these storylines I just think ever really mesh well together. None of the jokes really are funny, so for me, not really a great movie for me. So for me, I saw Infinite, and it is pretty disappointing. You know, the only good thing about this movie, I guess you could say, is that the special effects look cool. Some of the action, I guess you could say, stunts and stuff were cool. But everything else just kind of felt kind of bland. The cast was cool, I guess, with Mark Wahlberg, Chiwetel Ejiofor. The whole cast was good. But it's like, the story itself just did not really work for me. It did not make sense as to what was going on. And it just felt like it was just another big action movie, and I honestly wish I could like this movie, because it seems like a cool film. Now, if I'm being honest, America the Motion Picture, I honestly don't understand what this movie was, but it was just very dumb, and I just couldn't really enjoy it that much. It pretty much was just, it went too long on so many jokes. It did too much, and I just feel like that I couldn't really enjoy the movie as much, so for me, it comes pretty low on the list. Now, Predator 2, I just think was a very disappointing sequel. Of course, The action sequences in this movie are amazing. The gunfights are cool. Seeing Donald Glover in one of these films, pretty fun, pretty cool. My biggest thing with this film is that it just feels like it's an action movie, just throwing Predator in. That's all it feels like. It doesn't feel like a Predator film to me. And so that's kind of disappointing when you watch this movie. Now for me, the idea of this movie of people going onto this beach and they keep growing older and older and older the second they're on that beach, I think it's interesting, but for some reason it's like the situations in it are just so confusing and weird. Like when the kid keeps turning to a teenager, it's like they won't show his face, but then he's going to other places, and then the guy's like trying to help his mom, and he's like, what movie was Michael Keaton in, or whatever he was saying, like bro, why are you bringing up that at a time like this? Like, what? It was cool that they brought in the actor that played Hector in Coco, which when I watched the movie, I was like, oh, that's the guy that played Hector from Coco. So I kept hearing Hector in his voice, so that was cool. But the rest of the movie, not so much. Now, Snake Eyes was a film that I heard a bunch of negative things about, and it's pretty much generic. I was surprised with some of the action, because I didn't hear that many great things about the action sequences, and there's some good stuff in here, but it's not a lot of it. Certainly not a lot of it. I guess you could say I enjoyed different parts of the film. The story itself just felt a little bit similar to other action movies. The character of Snake Eyes didn't really feel that impressive. I would say that he is much better in the original G.I. Joe films, mainly because he's like an assassin. He doesn't talk that much. He just is an assassin that does his job. He does it right. So, was a little disappointed, but I still did kind of enjoy it. Now, this movie had some cool ideas, but it just kind of failed. So, like, I like the stuff they did with Raph and teaching him and being the mentor to this kid, but I feel like everything else just kind of fell flat. Like, they do this whole time travel storyline where they go, like, millions of years in the past to save April, and then Casey babysits grown men, and it's like, it's so weird. Some of the, even the action can't win it for me, so it's like, it's so disappointing with this film. Now, Jigsaw was a pretty good film. The kills worked. I loved all the kills. It was a definitely gory movie. When it came to the actual story, though, not my thing. Pretty much kind of generic, but overall, I liked the movie. Alright, so this was a film I watched for leading up to Thor: Love and Thunder, and this was like a disappointing movie because it's like, sure, the cast is great with Scarlett Johansson, Taika Waititi himself, and then one of the boys that played the kid in Home Sweet Home Alone. But some of the special effects are pretty good too. But other than that, like, the story, not that great. It's entertaining, but the story itself was just kind of all over the place that I just could not really... I couldn't really like it. Now, this is a film that I missed back in 2021, and I have to say, it was actually pretty good. The heist elements of it were pretty good. I was expecting this movie to be like a big action movie, but it wasn't really that. It was more of a heist movie with a little bit of action in it. And so you have a bit of action in here. Jason Statham works as this guy, who is skilled, and I thought that stuff of this movie worked. It was fine. It didn't really blow my socks off, but it was fine though. did kind of set up a cool story where you got Leonardo going off to train to become a better leader, while you have the team not exactly doing the best in it. And I thought they set up a cool story, but it just fell flat when you introduce monsters and Krang and all this other stuff, and it's like, not really interested in that. At the same time, Chris Evans as Casey Jones pretty works. It works, I guess. The movie feels like it's continuing some other type of Ninja Turtle series, and I just couldn't really buy into it, so kind of disappointed with that. But I still did like the movie, though. Alright, so this is another Taika Waititi movie that I watched, and this was actually a little bit better. It told a better story, it had clever jokes, you actually kind of cared about the characters, but at the same time, it's a little bit weird at times, because it's like, they just introduce you into the story, and you don't even know a thing. And that's kind of disappointing with me. It's kind of like what they did with Boy. It set up a good story, characters, all the stuff I liked, but it just did not do it the best introduction to it. Now this movie was actually pretty good. I think the first thing you gotta talk about here is the Casey Jones-like character where he does kung fu and stuff. I actually have a lot of fun with him as he's doing martial arts, and it's a little bit of a surprise, a little bit something different. And also, the turtles don't really use their weapons. They use more other objects than actual weapons, as one uses a yo-yo where he's walk the dog and then around the world, and they even use hot dogs to fight bad guys, and it's awesome. The stuff with Shredder coming back and having a new suit, not really my thing, but overall I enjoyed the film. Now, this is a movie that I think was fine for all the Predator sequels. The cast is stacked with Topher Grace, the girl from Suicide Squad, as well as Soul, and a show that my mom used to watch. And then it also stars some sort of Arnold Schwarzenegger type characters, so it kind of has some good stuff. Some of the action is pretty cool. The one scene where they keep shooting, they're doing that, it's used multiple times throughout the film. The movie itself feels a little bit more similar to the first film, but overall, I did kind of enjoy it. Now, Clerks, I thought it was fun. It definitely did some stuff that I did enjoy and liked. Basically, kind of is a little bit more slow-paced, but at the same time, it treats it like it's something real with all these people, because that's what people really go through in real life, honestly. So I actually kind of enjoyed that aspect about the movie, and that's pretty much what the whole film was. And I enjoyed it. I liked it. There's not a lot to talk about with this film, but the only thing I really liked about this movie is that it does explore people, in school, doing sports, and exercising and keeping healthy, and it's a good message. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Good film that has a good message. Now, the Paw Patrol film was okay at best. The callbacks to the music stuff, the whole song that calls back all the way back to the original show, I thought was awesome. It just made me feel like I was a little kid again. The dogs are sweet. They're all cute. Chase, the fact that this movie focuses on Chase, I thought was kind of fun. But at the same time, it's you can't really take him seriously because his voice is so cute. So it's you can't really take anything serious in this movie. But overall, I really enjoyed the film. So the original House Party, the plot is simple. The story is basically a kid gets in trouble at school, so he can't go to a party, but then he sneaks out, and then the movie just ends with him getting in trouble by getting the sounds of him getting beaten. So there's not really much to it. It has some comedic moments, but that's all it does. It's comedic, fun story though, but not all that memorable. Now this to me was a very fun film, as you basically get SpongeBob come back, and just hearing all these voice actors come back to play these iconic characters it's just amazing. It's just amazing. I personally I love all the little humor bits that they put in the film, but at the same time it's like there's a little bit of a scene where all the characters reveal that they've all went to summer camp together. But what makes it important is that they commit their true feelings to SpongeBob, and I think that's just really something that's really kind and sweet. And I thought that was really good. Now this was a movie that I missed back in last year, and I realized that it was I believe it was an HBO Max original, but I didn't watch it for certain reasons. I don't know why, but I did enjoy this movie. First off, it has all the cleverness of the Conjuring films. That opening sequence is just, it was so good. It really handled the movie really well. Of course, our two character leads were amazing, so I thought it was pretty good, but nothing special. Now, Hellblazers was a simple story. You kind of cared about the characters a little bit, and the action, the kills were all vicious, and it was just such an enjoyable film. So I enjoyed those aspects about the movie, but everything else, pretty generic and pretty forgettable. Now, this is a very hilarious movie, as the movie just goes for it. Almost every single dumb situation of a bad road trip movie, this is what it is. So basically, this guy wants to go across the entire state to New York City to propose to this girl that he likes. Not propose, but wants him to be his girlfriend. And so there's parts in this movie that are absolutely hilarious, but also very stupid. So they stop at a zoo. The guy gets into the cage with the gorilla, and he literally because he wants to take a picture. So then the gorilla pins him down, pulls down his pants, and just starts bruh. And then he does it from the face, and I'm like, oh my god, this was sick. This was sick. Sorry about that. And then there's literally a scene where they wake up, where they fall. There's a scene where they wake up, and the guy's private parts are strapped together, and I'm like, this is stupid, bro. And then and the way they get out of it is, and they're trapped, and it's trapped in a Chinese finger trap. So they use a chopstick to get it out. They literally stab it and get it out. I'm like, bro, this is insane. This is insane, man. So overall, you can tell that I love this. I did like this movie. I enjoyed it, but it is very stupid. So just make sure if you want to watch it with a group of friends, I would definitely recommend that. And for me, what this film did so well is that it really did tell a teenage story where you deal with all this sort of stuff. And I thought some of the characters you actually liked. You actually liked all the situations that were going on. You liked everything that was happening. You felt for them, but at the same time, it's they just lead into a story about preaching for girls and this is my right. This is my right. Bro, come on. I mean, not saying anything against that. I'm saying that they just made a whole different plot line where that didn't really need to be expressed, honestly. But overall, if that's what they wanted to do, whatever. But I like the movie, just kind of fell flat when they did that whole message thing, because that's not really what the whole movie was about. Now, Pig, I thought, was a pretty enjoyable film. Of course, Nicolas Cage nails it in the performance, as he's this guy that works for a restaurant. So it's kind of like John Wick, except someone steals his pig. So I thought it was kind of cool. But it's more bleak, it's more serious. And honestly, it's not really a film I'm going to rewatch really ever again. But it was a good movie, though. Now, this was a movie that I thought worked well enough. It told a pretty good story where you have all these characters and you have all this other stuff going on, all this political stuff. And as a drama, you kind of understood it, you understand it. The cast was great with David Harbour, Don Cheadle, and all these other people, and it felt like I was watching like a movie with Kingpin in it. So it kind of felt like that. So yeah, I liked the movie. So this movie actually explores the school year between, I believe, in another place, not in this state, but in another state, of the school year of 2019 through 2020, and basically forming into COVID. And I think that this was a very interesting movie, where you got to see the different types of school and how COVID has affected people and all this stuff. And I think it was a very interesting movie to watch at a time like that. So, pretty good film. Now, Kissing Booth 3, I thought was a very entertaining film, and I thought it was the best of the Kissing Booth franchise, Kissing Booth movies. Personally, I think that they were able to handle the story a little bit better while still doing a little bit more of jokes. In that this movie didn't really have a lot of stuff going on, but at the same time, it did kind of have that same stuff, but in a better way. So I still enjoyed the movie. It still had the comedy I liked. So I think they handled this movie pretty well. Now, I heard a lot of awful things about the original Escape Room, and I have to be honest with you, it is actually a pretty good film. Just the whole aspect of them being trapped in this escape room and trying to figure it out and all this stuff, it does well with what it's trying to go for and all the scenarios that they're using. I think works as that. So I thought the movie worked, honestly. So what this film does is that because you already have the premise of escape room, and you have done all that stuff, you've done all the text, you've done all the other stuff, all the what you expect from an escape room, but you also introduce characters they can bring back for a sequel, and I think that was really well told of what they did, and at the same time you can still have the escape room stuff going on, and I thought it brought the tension really well to the film, so I thought it worked well enough. Now, this was a movie that was very trashed on when it came out, but if I'm being honest, I think that it is actually a pretty good film. Now, granted, there's another Liam Neeson movie that we'll talk about later that I actually like a lot better, but this movie itself, I thought worked on its own terms. Personally, I think the action is pretty cool. It tells a story with this kid and this boy that kind of feels like Logan a little bit, except without the whole Wolverine violent action, and it's not a boy, it's not a girl that has superpowers, it's a boy, minus the superpowers. So I thought it worked well on its own terms, and so I thought it was a nice little story. Now, Atomic Blonde was one of, if not one of the most surprising films of the summer. Because it's like, the action, like, this is my kind of movie. I mean, every single action sequence was just absolutely amazing. Like, Charlize Theron gets punched in the face at least like multiple times in the film. There's also gunfights. It's intensive. You're going down the stairs. You're using bricks. You're using weapons. Like, you're using a lot of stuff, and it's just so entertaining. And that's what makes action movies great, is that it can be entertaining and fun. and still be a pretty good film. The story itself is pretty good, but Atomic Blonde worked as a great action film, so I loved that. Now, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I thought was a pretty good film. You know, it handled all the stuff I wanted right. It told a pretty good story. The characters were right. The personalities, all of them were right, especially Michelangelo, who happens to be my favorite Ninja Turtle of them, since he's the comedic relief. When it gets to the action, I thought was pretty good. And so the movie just told a pretty good story. Well, the story was kind of meh, and then when you get to the actual characters in action, that's what the entertaining stuff is. So I enjoyed the film. Shredder was kind of disappointing, but the movie was entertaining overall. Now, Oxygen I thought was a pretty good little film about a girl that's trying to get out, but trying to keep her blood pressure down because it will get crazy in there. And I thought it worked well on its own terms. Just the intensity of it, just everything about it, not everything about it, but it worked on its own terms as a smaller story, as it kind of imagines you what would you be like if you were in that situation. So I thought it actually worked on its own terms for that. Now, this was another interesting movie where you basically deal with this family coming to this house, and they're dealing with problems and all this stuff, while mixing in a haunted house that I thought worked well enough. You actually felt the intensity of it. You actually cared about the characters, everything that they're going through. The acting was pretty solid, so I thought the film was really, really good. It was pretty good. Now, Beckett was a film that I watched, and I was like, the idea of this film, like this guy gets into an accident, he has a broken arm, and he's just going across the entire town in Dutch or something, or Greek, and he doesn't know what to do, and it's like, he's doing almost everything he can, and it's like, it's so sad, and it's like, it's sad, just seeing him travel across the entire world alone. And it's sad, honestly, because you could imagine yourself in that situation a little bit. So, I enjoyed the film a good bit. Now, The Black Phone was a film that I watched, and I gotta tell y'all, it actually really worked. Ethan Hawke played a great performance as this serial killer, as this creepy old guy that kidnaps kids. Unlike when he played Arthur Harrow in Moon Knight earlier this year, it was a great transition from playing a pretty good villain and then playing a creepy old guy in The Black Phone. He played a great performance. The creepy aspect of it I thought worked. The characters and the kids I thought worked. And even the story with the drunk dad I thought was nice. There's parts of it that reminded me a lot like It because of the brutal fights with the kids, so I thought that was cool. And you actually kind of cared about the characters a little bit, so I kind of liked that, where you actually cared about the characters and you cared about the situations that were happening with them. Now, this was a movie that I watched as the first movie of summer that I watched of summer of 2022 for Retro Films. And I gotta say, this was actually a pretty exceptional film. You know, the special effects are great. The performance from Matthew McConaughey was absolutely amazing. The whole cast is great. As a Christopher Nolan film, it does work. It is a masterclass in not storytelling, but it is a masterclass in doing all that stuff. So I thought it worked really nicely. And for me, what makes this movie work so well is that you bring in the Terminator and Apollo Creed, a robot from the future, and a boxer, put them together in a movie, as you have them hunt down a predator, and the action is great, the characters and cast is pretty good, and overall it tells a more simplistic story, while at the same time just doing the stuff you do like from an old 80s action movie, and that's what this film delivers, and I liked it. Now, Arlo the Alligator movie, I thought was pretty good. It was solid. I didn't love it. The animation was pretty good. Felt like I was watching a Nickelodeon movie, I believe it was. And the characters are cute. They're fun. They're charming. You enjoyed the characters. You enjoyed the story. Wasn't the biggest fan of the turn of the dad being half man, half bird guy, but that's what they decided to do. Now, this movie, as I recently have seen it, I personally just really enjoyed this film. As a reference to many multiple movies, while having stupid insanity of cursing and freaking sheeps, the movie was very entertaining in that regard. So I really enjoyed this movie. There's a lot of great humor bits. If you want to go check out my review, I posted this video up a couple hours ago, and that's pretty much my review for Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Now, Plan B, I thought, was a pretty good, enjoyable film where you have this girl that gets accidentally pregnant, and so she has to go across the entire town to get these pills, but at the same time, she goes on this adventure while meeting new people. And I thought the movie worked, but at the same time, you also kind of feel emotional for the characters. While it is very funny, you feel emotional for the characters. So I thought that was actually pretty enjoyable for what a film like that can do. Now, John Wick was a very exceptional movie, as of course, you don't really come for the story. The story is that someone kills his dog, and so he's gonna go kill them. And the action is great, and that's what keeps the film up. And the action, whenever he's stabbing someone, you feel it. Like, it's not like fancy movie action. It's literal, brutal action, and it's amazing. So I love it. Alright, so this is actually one of the most recent movies that I watched, and I gotta tell y'all, this movie is very, very good. First off, Austin Butler as Elvis Presley absolutely works. Whenever you see him, whenever you hear his voice, you can tell that he's Elvis. You know he's Elvis. You feel like he's Elvis. And like the whole performance, like you feel like you're watching an Elvis movie. Also, Tom Hanks as Colonel Tom Parker definitely felt like a bunch of other characters that he's played, but very good performance in the character. I don't know if anyone else was getting this, but did anyone else get like a Penguin vibe from the Batman because he was fat a little bit in this movie? Because I don't know, maybe that was just me, but personally, I really enjoyed this film. Also, the music was great, and there were some shocking stuff that did happen in the movie that were very surprising, and that I did not know about Elvis. So that was pretty cool. So I really enjoyed the film. Now, House Party 2, I thought, was a very enjoyable sequel because it did a story right while still doing the stuff that it is known for, by basically doing a story that all revolves around the death of the dad, because in real life he died. So by the same time, and they tie the story in of what the dad wants him to do, but at the same time you still have the fun humor bits. And I think that's what makes the movie work, is they tell a good story, but they still have the humor bits that you like. So I think that was the greatest part of the film. Now, this for me was one of the best Saw sequels, as basically bring in an actor like Chris Rock to be in here, and he's sort of like the action hero, and his performance in this movie is amazing, as he's like, he's just throwing F-bombs all over the place, and when he curses, it's all funny, but at the same time, it's like you kind of cared about it a little bit with the situations. I don't know if it was because of Chris Rock, but I just cared about it. I just think when Chris Rock was on screen, it made me invested into the film. So for me, I really enjoyed this movie. Now, Boss Level was a film that I was so impressed by. It tells a very clever story of this guy who is basically in a video game, and almost every day, he gets killed and he has to restart the whole day again. And every single time he revives, the same thing happens to him every single day. And he tries to live with it, and it's annoying, and he tries to find out he has a kid, he has a wife, and so it's it's kind of emotional in that regard, but at the same time, it's also just really worth the story, and I think it worked on that regard. And also, the action was also great. And for me, this is the pinnacle of what summer movies are supposed to be. So basically, you get just these kids getting out of school and basically doing what summer was like back in the 60s and 70s, where basically kids would go out and play baseball, go to the carnival, go throw up, get sick, and that's basically what the whole movie is. It's kids during the summer, and also at the same time mixing in this killer dog, which is not really a killer dog. So I honestly really enjoyed the film for what it was. And for me, Sing 2 was such an exceptional Sing movie where, they continue what they did in the first film, except they did bigger, and I don't know if I could say better, but they did bigger and they did it right. I think they're planning to do a bigger show that is in space, so they have a space battle, they have a love story, they have this fun world, so it's all interesting and cool, but at the same time, it also sets up new strengths and weaknesses and challenges for our characters. So in the first film, one of Johnny's weaknesses was playing the piano. He's already mastered that, but now he needs to learn how to do choreography to do in the dance battle. With Mina, she learned how to sing in front of huge crowds, but now she needs to learn how to find love, and literally find love, not just for a play. All the other characters with Rosita, I guess you could say that she accomplishes her fear of heights, but that's not really an arc because a lot of people are afraid of heights. But she doesn't really have an arc in the movie. The music in here, once again, all works. The characters that were introduced in this film were all good. And all the songs are catchy. The soundtrack is catchy like the first film. So for me, I really enjoyed Sing 2. Now, then we get to Taken, and I thought this was a very good movie, where basically the plot is basically simple. We basically get a daughter of a dad that basically gets their daughter captured in France, and he has to go to France and track down these guys, while at the same time it's you feel the intensity, you like the intensity, and you also love some of the action sequences, and he masters it and all of that, and it's even besides little action sequences, there's little other sequences that happen that you actually like it, and so it's just a slang bang action movie that I absolutely really like. Now, The Croods: A New Age I thought was just such an exceptional film. Because we are now introduced to these characters, you can do the story without introducing them. Of course, they do the catch up, but you understand the characters' arcs now, and it's a lot more simple than what happened in the first film, because you didn't really understand what these characters were going through, but now you understand what they're doing, and the dad doesn't want them to leave, but then they don't want to be with this family because they think that there's something wrong with them. And I think that the reveal of why they can't eat the bananas just seemed kind of weird. The choreography was great, the new characters were interesting, and so I think I like this movie way more than the original Croods. I believe so. Now this was a very good movie, as basically deal with this girl who wants to sing, but their parents won't let her be with this person that she loves. And it's very emotional. The acting was brilliant. There's literally a scene where she talks back and it's like she slaps her, and it's like, that's crazy. That is insane. So I really enjoyed this movie a lot. Okay, so I went in this movie and I didn't really know what to expect. When I go into 2021 films that I have never heard before about, I don't really know what to expect. But I went to this film just expecting a good time, and to be honest with you, that's exactly what I did not get. I just got a good time. I got a great time. So basically it's about this kid that basically loves sound. He loves all things sound, and he'll do anything to do it. He'll do anything to do it. But he gets a seizure. He realizes he has a tumor, and in order to remove that tumor out, he'll go deaf. And he wants to go across New York City to basically listen to his brother's music. But on the way there, he does some things that not only is listening to sound, recording sound, but it's also just finding stuff that you've never done before in life. And I think that it's just great. It's something just very lifelike, and even then the characters are great. And even when you find out that the brother didn't sacrifice himself, he died because he had issues, like the emotions in that, you felt for it. It was very emotional, and so I just think that it was very emotional. It was fun. It was lighthearted, and I just thought it worked really well. So I really enjoyed I loved this movie. Now for me, this was such a pleasant surprise. When this movie came out, everybody was going crazy saying, "This is such a great movie, this is such a fantastic film." And they really delivered a great animated film. First off, as it is from the creators of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is one of my personal favorite animated films of that company, the animation in this film is of course great. It's all clear, it's all crisp. But what makes this movie work so well is really that first off, it's relatable, as each member of the family is either relatable or they're very funny. So the sister, or like the daughter, she wants to make movies, which is something that I want to do. But the thing is, her movies are very different from my ideas and stuff. And she wants to find those people that relate to her. And because her family doesn't really do it, because the son, he just wants to find people to talk about dinosaurs. Which kind of relates to me. I used to talk about just Marvel all the time, but I am going into forward and talking about other things. The mom, let's be honest, I don't really know what the mom was doing. She's trying to get the dog's eyes to look straight instead of just looking other ways. It was a funny little joke for dogs that you would do with your dog. But then I thought the relationship between the daughter and the dad, I thought was really nice, as the dad just keeps talking about screwdrivers and pine cones, where the dad doesn't think that she'll make a living with this. And I'm not saying that my dad doesn't like it. He's just not into it as I am. And my whole family's like that, but at the same time, it's like, I know, I have to respect that. They care, but they're not exactly as interested in it as I am. But then even then, when you get into the robot plotline, it actually works. You know, the storyline, but the background behind it is okay. But when it gets into like the teamwork between the family and all this stuff, it all works in that regard. As they start to work together as a family, have all these sweet moments together. The comedy in this movie really works. I thought the humor in this movie awesome, on point. But then when you get into the pop culture references, especially with the Rihanna song in the end and then even in the beginning, I thought paid off really well, and it's like I felt like a great vibe from it. And then even when you get into the finale and the mom starts becoming this badass character where she gets a heart of a robot, and then she's like, I am Kendall Mitchell or whatever her name is, and you will look upon me in fear, and just starts beating the crap out of these robots or beating the crap out of these machines, and it's just absolutely awesome. It pays it all off, and it's honestly a movie where it's like the prologue is great, and you actually like the characters, you like everything that's going on. So for me, it's just an absolute exceptional film that I absolutely love. It's one of the best Sony films. It's one of the best films of 2022 of retro films, and it's my favorite movie of this list. And that's my ranking of all 56 retro 2022 summer movies. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All my social media stuff is in the About section over there. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.